Welcome in. It is Tuesday, March 23rd. Hello to all of you beautiful souls. Welcome into Morning Invest, the only morning news show that's outside of the matrix, unplugged from mainstream media. And if you'd like to support independent journalism and show your support, you can do so for free. It's 100% for free by subscribing to our free daily newsletter. And we publish it Monday through Friday, delivered right to your inbox. We cover some stories that you will not see covered in the mainstream media. And we try to have some fun with it as well to keep you informed first thing in the morning. Just go to morninginvest.com, put in your email address. And I want to mention we actually have some special stuff planned coming up soon because we're going to be covering some different stock buys, some different Bitcoin purchases, different positions that I'm personally taking in. So I'm going to be covering those in some special notes and some special email coverage. And you'll be able to get in on some of these before other people even know about them. So make sure you subscribe to the newsletter so you have access to that. All right, coming up on today's show, Team Biden is about to unveil the biggest stimulus package in American history. And we have the early details about this package. Question is, will we see any checks? Good question. And the city of Evanston, Illinois is about to make history today. All eyes on Evanston, Illinois, the first city to implement reparations for slavery. It's about stinking time. We're going to talk about it and how it could be transformative. So get your super chats in now, and I'll read them live at the end of the show like I always do. So good morning, everyone. Welcome in to the show. I'm excited to have all of you here. We got a jam-packed show today, and thank you for everyone who joins us. We do have to start, though, today with this awful story out of Boulder, Colorado. More senseless violence. Just awful. Awful, awful. Now, how do we live in a country where this is allowed to happen? Now, I'm a progressive, and no other progressive country in the world has this kind of violence. None. But we're somehow okay with it in the United States. And we just get desensitized as they cart this suspect away. Shirtless guy. Carted away. But I want to talk about this in a different way. I want to look at it from a question as to what do we do about this? Not just rehashing these stories over and over again. What do we do about this? See, quite often Congress and Washington can seem alarmingly detached from the nation's problems to fix our problems, right? Instead of passing laws that actually help us, they pass stupid, wasteful laws like naming a park bench after somebody, right? That's what Congress spends its time doing. Or they're able to fast track a defense budget that allows us to continue bombing other countries. They can get that done like that. They get bills through the quiet of the night on both sides of the aisle. They know that are going to line the pockets of defense contractors, but the American people would be absolutely outraged if they knew what was in some of these bills. But as Jake Sherman writes this morning, the Senate's work will actually seem tragically well-timed, he says, because the Senate Judiciary Committee is hosting a hearing on constitutional and common sense steps to reduce gun violence today. Now, the hearing, of course, was actually scheduled well before a man just walked into a King Soopers grocery store in Boulder and mowed down shoppers for seemingly no reason at all. Yet that's precisely the point that Democrats are trying to make. Is that this type of violence in this country is so prevalent and so commonplace that it happens without warning or reason. I mean, look, we had the horrific story in Atlanta last week where 8 people mowed down. There was a couple together of Mexican descent at this massage parlor. They went in for couples massage. It was like a date or their anniversary or something. The husband is in one room, the wife is in another. Hear the gunfire. Police hold him for 2 hours while his wife passes away. They think he's probably one of the suspects. Person of color, surely. Right? So he's there getting a massage with his wife. She dies in the other room. One of the ironies of the COVID lockdown of last year was the number of mass shootings went down Although shootings and gun violence overall rose across the country. But as this country reopens, guess what? Just now we started reopening. There have been 2 of these mass shootings in 6 days. 2. It's like we're back to what we do best, right? And let's be abundantly clear about this. A majority of the House of Representatives supports some sort of overhaul of gun laws. And it's not clear that the majority of the Senate does, though. And frankly, right now it doesn't matter because the filibuster would force any of this legislation to get a 60-vote threshold. And there are nowhere near enough votes for any of these gun-related measures to ever overcome that barrier. So a filibuster. Here we are talking about the filibuster. Here was an eyewitness who watched this happen, who was in the grocery store, just going out to get a snack. He was going to get some ice cream after work. Can you imagine like a family? My wife said, just imagine a mom just going to the grocery store to pick up some apples for her children and doesn't come home. This is what we have to worry about in the United States.
I was going to get a Ben & Jerry's, and that was on the east side of the store, and I walked in on the west side, and I changed my mind, decided not to, went down a different aisle, and pretty much a moment after I made that decision, I heard the first 2 shots. And by the 3rd shot, I was running with everybody else towards the back.
Did you know where you were running, or you were just trying to get out of the way?
I worked at a grocery store for many years, so it must have been a little bit of instinct. But after the first 2 shots, I saw somebody running towards me with a terrified look on their face. I turned and ran and made sure everybody else was running in the same direction with me. Went through the back doors. The employees who were working there didn't know what was going on yet, so we had to tell them, gun, 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 run, run, run. And they made sure that we didn't go down any dead ends, and we all got out the back exit together, and absolutely insane.
You never know. But these awful stories are going to spur activists to call for the Senate to do away with the filibuster so Congress can actually attempt to pass new gun control laws. Now, remember, President Biden is going to come under enormous pressure to press Democrats to blow up the Senate rules. There is I'm sick and tired of this filibuster holding up meaningful reform in this country. Democrats are going to find themselves asking, what good is it to have majorities in both chambers and the White House if you can't pass a priority like gun control? For context, it's worth noting that the last time gun control legislation had any chance of getting through Congress was after Sandy Hook. The awful, awful, gut-wrenching story of Sandy Hook in 2012. Former President Barack Obama then said it was the darkest day of his presidency. He then called on Joe Biden at the time, who was then vice president, to lead that effort of gun reform. Like, if not now, when? I remember thinking, if not now, when? That this elementary school could have this type of horrific violence? Or, preschool, right? Kindergarten, for crying out loud. But guess what? It failed. The bipartisan background checks bill stalled on the Senate floor. It was a bipartisan bill. They couldn't even get it done, Biden and Obama. They were ripped apart by many people, including myself, for their inability to cut a deal and to use this incredible moment, this widespread national attention, to force Congress to get out of its slump and get something done. So will we see that again play out here? Can Biden actually move to action on this? I know he all loves to talk about how much he loves the Senate. He has great respect for the Senate. The way that laws are legislated in the Senate, that's great. I got news for you. Nothing ever happens in the Senate. It's where bills go to die. You know what? And then you go to a grocery store and you never know what's going to happen. Go to a movie theater in Colorado. Go watch The Dark Knight. Who knows what happens when a guy walks in there at night with a gun? Like what happened in Aurora. On another note, though, activists have pointed out that in Georgia, for instance, it's easier to buy a gun there than it is to register to vote. And now the legislature is making it harder in Georgia to vote, but easier to get a gun. Oh, in South Carolina this week, moving towards open carries. People of color in South Carolina say that it absolutely makes them more of a target. But this says a lot about where America is headed in 2021. Drop me a comment below. What type of reform would you like to see? Would you like to see gun control reform in this country? Or just continue going the way we are? How about maybe acting like any other industrialized countries around the world that don't have this problem? Go to Norway. Go to Finland. Go to Scotland. Go to Portugal. Go to Spain. See people walking around with weapons? No. Do they hunt? Sure. But only in the United States. Again, let me know your thoughts on this. Meanwhile, let's talk about stimulus now. This first massive infrastructure bill that we've seen in decades could alter the course of American history. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. The size and scope of what we're learning about this morning is massive. So we learned yesterday that the Biden administration is putting together a $3 trillion economic plan. Now, for some context here, in 30,000-foot context, a few weeks ago we were hearing 1.5 trillion. We were hearing $1 trillion during the Trump time. And then recently we've been hearing upwards of 4 trillion. So this seems to be the number, folks. We knew that it was going to be big. I'm really shocked that it's this big. 3 trillion as part of a multi-part package that they're going to roll out. We could see the pieces of this emerge as early as next week. But here's what we're learning from different sources this morning. So the first proposal would center on roads, bridges, and other infrastructure projects. And it would also include many of the climate change initiatives that Biden wants as part of his Build Back Better plan that he released during the 2020 campaign. And that package would be followed then by other measures, including education and other income inequality measures. It would also include the extension of that child tax credit, which is set to expire at the end of the year. It was only meant to be temporary to begin with. It was a 2020 program. And the goal was, at least among senators, is that they were going to extend this child tax credit, the $3,600 per child under the age of 6 and the $3,000 per child up to the age of 17. That would be extended permanently. I mean, the goal is to make that permanent. And again, I think that this would absolutely be transformative to lift families out of poverty, to lift entire families out of poverty where, I think the estimates are upwards of 49 million children. To have that kind of extra money coming in from the government to provide for their family would be transformative. There are also going to be an extension for universal pre-kindergarten and tuition-free community college would be a part of this. Free college. Huge. Finally. That is a big piece of what Biden wants to accomplish is free public college. Of course, the questions this morning center around stimulus checks. There's a number of members of the House of Representatives and over 11 senators that are calling for additional stimulus checks. In fact, recurring $2,000 stimulus checks through the end of this pandemic as part of this $3 trillion package. The package, though, could face a difficult path through a narrowly divided Congress. And Democrats aren't all in agreement either on how they should move forward on this. We do know that even Joe Manchin of West Virginia had been even pushing for close to $4 trillion. Again, Senators and representatives love infrastructure because they get to put their name on things that they bring back to West Virginia and other states. They get to say, look what I did. Do you know all those bridges that were broken down that you couldn't travel over and you had to spend an extra hour commute because you couldn't go over that bridge? I fixed it. Pete Buttigieg, who's the the transportation secretary under President Biden, was asked about this on Bloomberg Radio and went into the importance of moving this infrastructure project forward. And he was also asked a very important question on the filibuster. And I want to play this for you now. This is Pete Buttigieg, who is the transportation secretary. He's going to probably be leading up this effort under Biden for roads, bridges, sewer, broadband, stimulus, child tax credits, all of it under Pete Buttigieg. And this is a huge deal for him.
In the meantime, we are pursuing this rescue plan that is just so important at a moment when we are a long way from being out of the woods. We have got to get doses of vaccine out to sites. We got to get shots in arms, and we got to get checks out to families. An abundantly bipartisan majority of the American people want this to be done. We're hoping that'll amount to a bipartisan majority on Capitol Hill too.
And just to stay on the issue of the minimum wage, just for a follow-up, do you think that Democrats should abolish the filibuster? And if so, what would that mean for the rest of Biden's agenda if they don't?
You know, I'll let the president speak to that. What we know is that, again, we're talking about things that the American people want. You know, you can only face down the American people for so long when they say loud and clear that these kinds of policy changes are needed. This is part of why the American people chose Joe Biden to be president, campaigning on a promise to deliver this kind of relief and support for American families. And that's why we have such optimism that it will be able, even in Washington, to carry the day.
As you look in this particular plan, one of the issues that I think has not been covered enough is the effect that this stimulus would have on veterans. You've obviously served in the military, but just we talk so much, especially on this program, about the effect that this has on the private sector, on small businesses, on Main Street, the debate about minimum wage for restaurants. But how will this stimulus bill directly affect veterans who have been absolutely crushed by this economic downturn?
Well, that's exactly right. You look at the economic hardship, unemployment rates, things that veterans are up against, and you know, veterans are Americans who have given so much to this country, deserve for this country to take care of them too, to make sure that this is a country that is economically strong, just as they've put their lives on the line, to make sure that this country is physically strong. And
we know what veterans and how after World War II and the GI Bill and all of these things, one of the big, of course, disparities back then during FDR's time in the New Deal was that it helped a lot of white people, and it helped a lot of upwardly mobile white people. The New Deal did, and the hope is that with these programs under Biden, that it's not just helping white people, that it's helping all people. And it's lifting up an entire generation of minorities in this country who have been economically hammered disproportionately. And so there's a number of pieces I want to go through in this. And most particularly is the price tag. I mean, $3 trillion. How are we going to pay for this? There's going to have to be tax increases. And it's thought that this tax on the wealthy, there's also, there's thought that the tax on the wealthy, the wealth tax, the ultra wealth tax, additional taxes on business. We know that President Biden is planning on a tax increase. This could really shift and basically pay for the entire thing and help us hit surpluses in order to get us out of this debt we're in. Think about people having free public college. People being able to support their family. Guess what happens when people have money? When they're not worried about debt, when they're not worried about anxiety, about paying the bills and utility bills, guess what? They put money into the economy. You know, it's interesting. I'm not going to talk about stocks today on the show, but I was looking at a number of, I talk about that on my other channel. If you want to hear more about investing and crypto and things like that, you can join me on my personal channel, which is youtube.com/Clayton Morris, my personal channel, I talk more about that. But anyway, one of the stock pieces I was noticing this morning is that they've been looking at stock buys over the past few weeks. And guess what? A lot of people are investing their stimulus money. They're putting some of it paying off bills, and they're using other to buy stocks or to invest or to buy gold because they don't trust the government. They don't trust the government currency, and I don't blame them. So is it so bad? And guess what? Wall Street is happy about it. So Wall Street's looking, they're like, wow, hey, there's an infusion of money coming into Wall Street. So, hey, Wall Street can be fine. They can be happy about it when we get these stimulus packages. So I should be clear, no part of this proposal has been finalized yet, and the eventual details of anything could change. But the real big question I have is, will Republicans be involved in this? And it looks like, no. It looks like they're going at it again. Reconciliation process, no Republicans involved. Sorry, guys. Bye-bye. Sorry, Mitch McConnell. You gonna cry some turtle tears? Oh, Clayton, that wasn't nice. Sorry, Mitch. I'm sorry. So right now, he's been reaching out to Senate Democrats, and he's basically been ignoring Republicans. Biden has. Good. It would include $1 trillion for roads, bridges, and rail lines, electric vehicle charging stations, and cellular networks, among other items. It would be basically a way to shift towards cleaner energy while giving big economic competitiveness to like U.S.-built solar panels and all of that stuff. A second big piece of this bill would include investments in workers with free community college, universal pre-kindergarten, and paid family leave. Finally. So overall, the price tag is around $3 trillion. Nancy Pelosi said the goal is to do this swiftly and to build on the already passed rescue plan that would affect people in every zip code by helping create good paying jobs for the future. And a lot of them climate related. You know that the climate and green energy related jobs end up paying about 3 times more than fossil fuel based jobs. And Biden has also said that he wants to increase corporate taxes, people making more than $400,000 a year. And they're going to be investing in drinking water, broadband, of course, and other priorities. We are going to hear today from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. She is expected to speak and to talk about how she sees the economy set for a boom. She's going to be speaking to the House Financial Services Committee today. And she says that she sees a full economic recovery by the year 2022. I mean, look at the pre-moving market right now. I mean, I got the numbers up behind me. Yeah. We're already seeing some of this confidence coming back. And if you have the Treasury Secretary saying, I see a full economic recovery by 2022, and Wall Street's happy about stimulus. Let me know your thoughts on this in the chat below. Do you want recurring stimulus checks? What about this child tax credit? What are some of the things that you want to see from the federal government? Drop me a comment below and get in your super chats as well. We'll open it up here at the end. So, I mean, to me, this sounds fantastic. I mean, to me, this sounds exactly where we need to be. And I think it needs to cover some of the, when we talk about, so that's really what we'll be defining as what is infrastructure. We use that word infrastructure. Okay. Community college. Is that part of our infrastructure? Is education part of our national infrastructure? Yeah, I think so. Eliminating poverty, could that be part of our national infrastructure as well? Will Republicans get on board with it? Probably not. It's time to keep them honest. And today, folks, the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching one city. And I'm not saying this lightly. I don't mean the whole world lightly. I really mean the whole world is watching this. From Germany to Japan to the United States. The whole world is watching Evanston, Illinois today. I spent a lot of time in that beautiful city. They're going to vote to begin distributing $400,000 in grants to black residents. It would be the first instance of a U.S. city issuing reparations for decades of racist government policies. Who's eligible? Black people who lived in Evanston between 1919, the year 1919, and the year 1969, or those whose ancestors did, as well as black residents who can show they were subject to housing discrimination by the city. They're going to receive $25,000 to put towards housing, such as buying or upgrading a home. The money is, here's the brilliant part of this. Where's the money going to come from, right? It's going to come from a sales tax on pot, on recreational marijuana, which was recently legalized in Illinois. So how do we get here? Well, since the Civil War ended in 1865, things haven't gone so great in the United States for people of color. Reparations have been floated even since then as a potential solution for this racial wealth gap that has resulted from centuries of discriminatory laws. For instance, in a process known as redlining, for those of you who don't know what this is, banks would deny mortgages to black people in certain neighborhoods. And it was policy, written out policy. It also prevented them from accumulating wealth by owning a home. You want to talk about systemic racism? I want someone to argue with me to tell me that America, look at that. Look at this on your screen. Systemic racism, it was built in to the system. Fast forward to 2019, Evanston, which is a Chicago suburb and home to Northwestern University, has now voted to create reparations fund to begin making amends for these past policies that denied wealth to its black residents, who currently make up 16% of the total population there. And the city said, look, we're going to give out up to $10 million over 10 years. You know, for some, that's not close to enough. And this is just a percentage of what overall, there's some fears from people who are not supportive of this, that they think that this reparations program is more like a reparations light because it's narrowly focused on housing assistance. One of the aldermen there, Cicely Fleming, she's been pretty outspoken about this. She says, you know, if we're doing reparations, let's do reparations right. Let's not shortchange black people on something they've been waiting centuries for. But proponents say, look, it is a good start for grappling with systemic racism and could serve as a model for other cities, including neighboring Chicago, even Providence, Rhode Island, Asheville, North Carolina. They're also considering reparations programs right now. And guess what? Other countries around the world are considering reparations programs. Here is just one example of a woman who her grandmother lived in Evanston. And as a result of systemic racism in that city, she was told that she couldn't open her restaurant. Like the city basically said, hey, oh, you're black. You cannot open a restaurant over there. You have to open it over there. Oh, you can't open it over there. You know what? Just open it in your own home then, because we don't want you to have a restaurant. Systemic racism.
My great-grandmother, who was in Evanston, I guess she probably been here since the late 30s, early 40s. And she was a business owner, but she was forced to just stay in one certain area to the point of she had to have the restaurant in her home.
So getting a little money, and this is basically a fraction of what should be paid out. But when you know, and so I always have a real problem when someone says, hey, we're all on the same playing field. We're all on the same playing field. Oh, yeah? Did you grow up in a situation where you literally weren't allowed to build wealth because the way the government's structured, you couldn't open a store in a high foot traffic thoroughfare because you're black? You have to go over there and open a restaurant or store where there's no foot traffic. Or, you know what, we don't even want you opening the business. Just, you know, open it in your home. Maybe people will stop by and get some food. Oh, you want to buy a house in an appreciating neighborhood where there's low crime and good jobs? Look, I'm a real estate investor. If someone ever told me, hey, you can't invest in that particular neighborhood because you're white, I'd be like, what? I can't buy a house in that neighborhood because I'm white. Yeah, sorry. You can't. Color your skin. So all eyes on Evanston, Illinois today. We'll see how the city council votes. A big story. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop me a comment below, and I'll be watching that today. We'll be covering it in the newsletter, by the way. If you're not already a subscriber to our newsletter, please subscribe. We cover progressive issues, things that I think matter to the American people, things that are not going to get the coverage they need in the mainstream media. Go to morninginvest.com. I do want to tell you about our show sponsor today. And I love a sponsor with a sense of humor, as you know. But I also love to have sponsors that are saying, hey, we're not afraid to talk about these issues. And that's what Blue Chew is all about. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form at a fraction of the cost. They have tablets. They combat all forms of ED and can help men gain extra confidence for when it's time to perform. It's an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, and it ships right to your door in a discreet package. All you got to do is go to bluechew.com. Very, very simple to do. Go to bluechew.com. You pick your plan. But when you go there, you're going to get your first order free thanks to us. That's right. So when you use the coupon code INVEST when you're checking out, bluechew.com, and use that coupon code INVEST, you'll get your first order free. You get your first month for free. All you have to do is pay $5 in shipping. And that's all you got to do. It is really simple to sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. That's how it works. They send it right to your door. And this guy, he's not going to deliver it, but the discreet packaging. Their licensed medical providers will work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. And if you don't like swallowing pills, no problems here because Blue Chews are chewable and they're made in the USA. And they ship direct. It's cheaper than a pharmacy, and you can always have confidence. So our thanks to them for supporting the show and not being afraid to talk about something that's a little uncomfortable for some men out there. And for some women to talk about. Hey, we're all friends here on the show, so we can talk about it. I want to open it up for some super chats now and get your sense of what's happening in the world. Cindy Girl 41 says, Clayton, I sincerely appreciate you for addressing systemic racism. So many are not willing to discuss this uncomfortable topic. Well, as I just showed you, that's why our sponsor actually support our show, because we cover uncomfortable things on this show. Look, you can't sweep these things under the rug. Like in Germany, for instance, it's part of their curriculum in Germany to teach about the horrors of the concentration camps. They teach their children about it, so they'll never forget. In Germany, think about Germany would be very easy. Like, I don't remember what happened in the 1930s and 40s. Zip, can't talk about it. No. But they teach it, so everybody understands the horrors of the Third Reich and what happened there. Oh, and by the way, how they actually won at the ballot box. Yeah, people voted to put the Third Reich in power. So how do you not repeat that kind of craziness, right? It's important to learn from history. And Cindy Girl, I don't have all the answers by any means. There's so many nuances of these things. But at a 30,000 foot level, by supporting, helping lift people out of a poverty system that in many ways was created by our government. Like if someone is incarcerated falsely, that person that was incarcerated falsely ends up getting a huge paycheck because they had their lives basically ruined by the government. And I think I don't really understand how you can argue against it, but Emily West says, do you think monthly checks will be approved? It's hard to say. I don't know if recurring checks, but there is definitely a push for additional stimulus checks. So I think we may see the fourth stimulus check in this. But personally, I'm hoping that we actually make this permanent. I'm hoping that we make this the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit permanent beyond just this year. I think it's incredibly important. So Emily, I'm hoping. Thank you for your super chat. I would love to see. I mean, we've got 50 members of the House, 11 senators right now that are pushing for recurring stimulus checks. And if we're going to tax the rich to pay for it, great. Danny Terry, $5 super chat, says, Clayton, I got my Harry's shaving kit in the mail. It works great. Thank you for mentioning it. You bet. Harry's was one of our sponsors. I love Harry's. It's my favorite shaving kit. Don't you love the gel, the shaving gel? That's the word I'm looking for. Stuff is fantastic. And their razors are fantastic. Seriously, it's the only one I use when I shave. As you know, I shave like 3 times a week. Juanita Walker, $5 super chat. Thank you, Juanita. The IRS is mailing my stimulus on the 26th. So is this that 2 weeks after the 26th? IRS is mailing my stimulus on the 26th. Oh, well, it depends on how quickly the mail gets to you. It could get there in 2 days. If they're mailing it on the 26th, it depends on where you live, but it depends on where it's coming from. If it's coming out of D.C., you could get it in 3 days. I don't think you'll have to wait 2 weeks for it to arrive. Fran Edis, thank you for your super chat. Rose, I love your little, is it a Rosie the Riveter avatar? I can't really see on this tiny one, but Rose Esparza, $10 super chat. Clayton, I love your true morning show and how you open my mind of what's real. I know that you like Pink Floyd. What is your favorite album and why? Sorry, this is not a stimulus question. You rock. Hey, this is not a stimulus show. We are a progressive news show covering stories, and stimulus happens to be one of the biggest stories that I think can help lift a lot of people out of poverty. That's why I cover it so heavily. It's important to so many people. But that's why, hey, we covered reparations today on the show. We covered what happened in Colorado and gun control. So I cover all those stories. But I love Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. In fact, let's see. I'm going to go get this I'll go get this really quick, if you don't mind. I've done plug here for a second, but I have a picture over here. I haven't hung it up yet. It's still, because we're getting the studio still. So I'm going to go grab it real quick. Hang on. Actually, yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, so this is my, and I got to see Roger Waters, The Wall, live at Yankee Stadium. That was an amazing show. My wife and I got to go see that. Huge fan of The Wall. I think that was like the album I listened to more than any other as a child growing up. But the first CD that I ever bought, I bought it before, I was hoping that I would get a CD player for Christmas. So in order to kind of like push my parents in that direction, I bought a CD. And I was like, oh, Mom and Dad, I can't wait to be able to play this CD. Maybe just after Christmas. Sure enough, they did. They came through and got me a 5-disc CD changer that I think I wore it out. I played it for so many years. But anyway, the first album I ever got was Pink Floyd's Animals. I bought it on CD before I had a CD player. But I have to say, then for years, I would go to bed listening to the Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here. Still one of my favorites. So it's hard for me to pick, but I absolutely love Wish You Were Here. That's probably my favorite. That and Animals, I think. I don't know. There's just too many. I love them all. But I've been watching at nights. I'll watch YouTube videos of Roger Waters and David Gilmour playing. Like, have you watched the Live 8? Live 8, their reunion. It's like 25 minutes where they got back together and played at Live 8. That was pretty great. So I've been watching a lot of that at night. Thank you, Rose, for your question. Got me thinking about some music. James Figueroa, good to see you. Thank you for your super chat. Myra is a new channel member. Thanks to all of our new channel members, by the way. You can become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, and you can support independent journalism by becoming a channel member. Kind of a runny nose today. Myra. Yes, thank you. Nicole Johnson. Thank you for your super chat. You're only going to control law-abiding citizens, not criminals. I mean, drugs are illegal and they are still out there. Okay. I am also a huge proponent of legalizing drugs, ending this fake war on drugs, which has cost trillions of dollars, and we have not won the war on drugs. Look at the war on drugs. We cannot have a serious conversation about our border security in the United States without also talking about the war on drugs. If you don't talk about the war on drugs when you in the same breath as our border, southern border, then I can't take you seriously. And so we should end this horrible war on drugs. We should free nonviolent drug offenders in prisons and treat people that have drug addictions, not treat them as criminals. And by then you would eliminate, think about the plunging amount of violence you would have. Again, this is why Europe has looked to Portugal for the way that they have handled this. They've been a beacon of hope. The United States has sent attorneys general to Lisbon to study how did Portugal get rid of its crime. Guess what? They legalize drugs and they get help for people that need help, but they don't lock them up. And now that's why Portugal's the third safest country in the world. Drug crime, gone. Michelle Winters, $5 super chat, thank you, says, I paid off the remainder of my debt with this last check. I feel very fortunate. If another check comes, I guess they won't think I need it now. Look, it's not about scraping by, Michelle. Heaven forbid that you should get a check that enables you to get lifted up a little bit, right? Just because you're out of debt now, we don't want anyone to be in debt in the United States. But we're a debt-based society in the United States. We have predatory creditors that prey on people. We have massive student loan debt. Again, go to Europe. They don't have student loan debt. They don't even have credit card debt. But we are fueled by these predatory banks in the United States. So imagine if we get a stimulus check in the imagine if you got a stimulus check that just helped you invest some money. Would that be so bad? Or put a little bit in savings to protect you and your family. Would that be so bad? No, but Republicans and some Democrats think that that's bad. That maybe that's, you're making too much money now. Now we're being silly. But it's okay for us to send billions to line the pockets of defense contractors. Emily West says, when do you think they'll start debating and voting on it? Well, we should see at least a proposal on it next week. I think by April. The goal, I think, is to have it passed by Memorial Day. So what is Memorial Day this year? Let's ask Siri. When is Memorial Day this year? May 31st. Monday, May 31st. Ruth Hagner is a new channel member. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Natalie Chavez says a $5 super chat. Yes. Recurring stimulus, child tax credit. I want all of it. They also need to legalize marijuana. Yes. Look what Evanston, Illinois is doing. They're able to pay reparations for slavery and housing segregation and government discrimination by taxing cannabis for recreational use. Oh, you want to go smoke it recreationally? Great. There's a tax on that. Guess what? That's going to do is going to help lift thousands of people out of poverty. Good. Ashley Robles, thank you for your super chat. Says, my tax person advised me that child tax credit extension is only an advance on your next year's child tax credit. John Talking Tax or Michelle Edwards, let me ask them that question. My tax person advised me that the child tax credit extension is only an advance on your next year's child tax credit. Is this true? It's a 2021 tax credit. An advance. Would that be possible that it would be in advance? I mean, it's an emergency. I mean, the way that they classified it is that it's an emergency child tax credit. So it's only 1 year. The goal, of course, in the infrastructure bill is to extend it permanently. Let me see if John is here. Michelle, on that specific question. Yes, that is true, John says, because the rest comes on the 2021 return. Okay, thank you, John. So yes, the answer is then yes, Ashley. Yes, that's true because the rest comes on the 2021 return. Okay. So, John, how much comes on this return then? Is it like 50%? Myrecia Moody says, sure, they screw you next year. Shirley Calliger, first half is paid July through December, then January through June 2022. Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. Hans Wolf, thank you for your super chat. Says Clayton, hope David is feeling better. Regards. Yes, I know that he did get some sleep yesterday and is dealing with migraine and all craziness. So hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. Mackay Williams, why is it so hard for our government to pass these stimulus bills? Dems should be able to pass it without Republicans since they are literally in the House and the Senate. Yes, I know. Again, end this filibuster. End it. I'm tired of seeing Mitch McConnell give floor speeches and talking about how it's unjust, that we should have a strong Senate, the rule of law. It's what our founders wanted. No, they didn't. David Blanton, thank you for your super chat. I believe recurring checks will be good, but don't think Manchin and the lady from Arizona, Kristen Sinema, will let it pass. Well, look, here's the thing about infrastructure, is that if they will do a lot of horse trading. Okay. And if Kristen Sinema in Arizona can get some of her pet projects that she wants back in Arizona and she's able to stand by those, and then she can then say, yes, I supported this bill. Why? Because they horse traded. They gave her a few extra things. Same thing with Joe Manchin. By the way, West Virginia could be moving to eliminating the income tax. This is going to be interesting to see if the state legislature in West Virginia starts to do what Texas has done, what Florida has done, what Tennessee has done. It's been a boon for business. I mean, you've had car manufacturers move to Tennessee. I mean, look what Apple's building new headquarters in Texas because of that tax, because of, state income tax, just it's business friendly. So West Virginia could become a new business boom state. Eula Nolan just became a new member. Thank you so much, Eula Nolan. Cindy Girl is a new member. Gina Brown, thank you for your super chat. I have a 15-year-old. When can I start applying for the monthly child care credit? I'm just a little confused about the tax credit. When can you start applying for it? That's a good question. Do we know yet, John and Michelle, when can you actually start applying for this? We were waiting on the IRS to tell us. Have they given us an update overnight about when we can actually do this? John, sorry, I don't know if you heard my question. I'll repeat it. When can Gina start applying for her child tax credit? Again, we were waiting on the IRS to tell us. And we do know that the commissioner, the head of the IRS, okay, so John says they are supposed to start giving that out on July 1st. Yeah, exactly. And applying, we still don't know. We have no guidance on that. So Gina, they're supposed to be paying out on July 1st. But yesterday we heard from the head of the IRS, and they still haven't figured out when or how you're going to apply for that. Apparently what they're saying is that they're going to automatically know about it, right? No, that's for the $10,200 rebate for if you pay taxes off of your unemployment. So I don't know. Because what if you had a baby? How are they going to know this? You're going to have to apply, I would think. You're going to have to make some sort of an online sign up. So Michelle Edwards says the child tax credits will not be starting in July. But I thought we heard from the IRS commissioner yesterday that is what's going to happen. Let's see. Oh, yes, you're right. So he followed up his statements yesterday. So they don't think it's going to be started by July 1st. They have to create an online portal. Okay, so here's the bottom line. According to the IRS, to get these child tax credits, they don't think it's going to be ready by July 1st. He said, I think it's going to be a challenge to get into the monthly situation with these child tax credits right out of the box. He said that the IRS would have to create an online portal to implement this program. So now the IRS has to create an internet site or a portal inside irs.gov for you to apply. That's not built yet. And if they're going to try to hit that July 1st time, he's not confident that that's going to happen. So if the head of the IRS is not confident, and he's a government, I mean, that's like the most bureaucratic building in Washington, the IRS building. So, but anyway, taxes are at least extended till May 17th. So I hope I answered that. Thank you, Michelle and John, for weighing in on that. So they were hoping to get it done by July 1st. Doesn't look like they're going to. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they're under-promising and they'll over-deliver. What do you think? Okay. Benjamin, $5 super chat. Good morning. Just found out this morning that we might be waiting until summer for my tax return. Definitely super helpful now. Have a great Tuesday. Yeah. Queen Doreen Augusto, $5 super chat. I love your show. Been watching for a year. You've opened my mind. Is the $300 UBI going to continue in April? Because I didn't receive it this week. It should. For a lot of people, I asked them, are you going to see a lapse in your coverage? Some people said, no, I didn't see any lapse. But I guess you did receive a lapse from your UBI, your unemployment benefits. They were trying to get it done on time. It looks like, with all the stalling and foot dragging, that's why people were getting hit with a lapse. So hopefully it'll pick back up next week for you. I hope. Talking tax. Thank you, John, for your super chat. If they're going to do free college, wouldn't you think they would give the $50,000 in student loan forgiveness to go with it? Well, that's what I'm saying. It's one thing to give free public college. I think it's great, but you have so many people that are behind now, and they will be for decades swamped by student loan debt. I think it'd be wonderful to forgive these federal student loans, and at the same time providing free public college. Start turning America into what the rest of the world already does. We are not number one in anything anymore, except wars. Susan Wacker, thank you. The Wall is my favorite one. From The Who. Susan says, The Wall is my favorite one from The Who. Well, The Wall is Pink Floyd, Susan. Slap became a new member. Thank you. Rumple Gold. Hey, Clayton, as a fellow history buff, I got to ask, who's your favorite historical icon? Teddy Roosevelt. I also think Nikola Tesla is incredibly fascinating. But as far as like presidents and high profile, I'm a huge fan of Teddy Roosevelt. Progressive, just vigorous, overcame such adversity at a young age. Couldn't even breathe when he was little. But really what I think, I wish Democrats, I wish Republicans would look to Theodore Roosevelt, who was a Republican, by the way. but who's more progressive than any of them. Shelly Cali Girl became a new member. Thank you, Shelly. I thought you already were a channel member, but maybe you... Monique Francis, morning. What's your opinion about having people in place to teach low-income people about building wealth? It's good Biden wants to help. Yes. Okay, Monique. I think it's incredibly important. This is something I've spent my last 10 years doing is teaching people about how to build wealth. I have a whole YouTube channel on real estate investing. YouTube.com/Morris Invest, my company that we do real estate investing and teaching. And I've written a book called How to Pay Off Your Mortgage in 5 Years. You can find it on Amazon. And so I'm passionate about helping people learn about financial wealth, building financial freedom outside of the U.S. government dollar. And, but the problem is when the government gets involved in trying to teach people about wealth building, my fear is that they're going to encourage people to teach people to get a job, to work for somebody else, put money into a 401k with really high fees, like basically a Dave Ramsey approach, like maybe invest in some mutual funds. That's not how you build wealth. If you can start a business, if you can invest in performing assets, that's how you build a business. If you have your performing assets pay for your lifestyle, you don't trade time for money. When you trade time for money, it's very difficult. So you have to be very smart. And so I hope that if they do really teach wealth building, they teach it the right way. We were never taught this in school. The only thing I was ever taught about wealth building in school, and it wasn't even that, it was finance. It was about how to balance my checkbook. That's it. And I remember one time I was on Fox and I was talking about my book, How to Pay Off Your Mortgage in 5 Years. And Bill Hemmer, one of my old co-anchors at Fox, said, I love that you're teaching people this. I said, yeah, all I ever was taught was how to balance a checkbook. And he stopped me in the hall and he said, Clayton, I wasn't even taught that. We don't teach financial education to people. Imagine, the problem is, I really believe, is that the oligarchy wants to keep people dumb. Wall Street and the oligarchy, they make money off of you not being wealthy. They make money off of you being, living in poverty. It's how they survive. And so if we started having an entire generation of people learning how to build businesses and investing properly and, not going into credit card debt and all of those things, it would be earth shattering. It would upend Wall Street. It would upend these billionaires and their oligarchy. Think about it. I'm just going to give you an example. CNBC. So if you're sitting there thinking you want to make money and you're just watching CNBC and you keep seeing all of these television ads for Fidelity or all these other companies that want to get you to put your money with them as a financial advisor so that you pay them all these kind of fees, right? If you had financial intelligence, you wouldn't have a financial advisor. You would do it yourself because financial advisors don't even invest in the things they recommend. They're making money off of your money. So that's how this whole system works. They don't want you to become more intelligent financially or to understand how the system works. They make money off of you not learning this. So again, I had to dig deeper into exactly how the government's going to teach us about wealth building. But if it involves a 401k, look out. Then we're in trouble. Joseph Radomski. Thank you for your super chat. Says here in Levittown, Pennsylvania, Walmart has to lock up their underwear. How sad state of affairs is that? Jeez Louise. That's crazy. Brian Bang, thank you for your question. When is the child tax credit going to roll out and how? I think I covered that, but in case you missed it, we thought it would be out by July 1st. It's not probably going to happen, according to the IRS, head of the IRS. And they're going to open up a portal, an online portal, where you will have to go on the IRS website to apply for it. Misfit Brit, thank you for becoming a new channel member. Crystal Lambert, thank you for your super chat. Any word on what to do about unemployment tax, responsibility, education on gun laws, not taking guns away? You see what happened with prohibition. Have a way to set up benefits to apply for recurring payments. Yeah, I mean, but what's fuel? When we have gun violence, it's mostly tied to the war on drugs. It's tied to drugs. So if we legalize drugs and we get rid of these illegal guns, because illegal guns are mostly the ones that cause, end up being behind the violence. But any word on unemployment taxes? So we don't yet know, but apparently the IRS says that you shouldn't have to do anything for that $10,200 unemployment tax waiver, that they will handle that for you. Marilyn Baez says, can you start to invest with $500? It's not much, but it's all I have. Yeah. Come on over and watch my other channel. I'll teach you how you can buy some really insanely cheap crypto coins right now. I'm talking like for pennies that we're seeing 300, 400% profits. And by the way, you got to subscribe to my newsletter, because this weekend I'm going to have a special on a company, a gold company that I'm looking at right now, and I'm going to send out a special Sunday note on it. So subscribe to morninginvest.com, our newsletter, and I'm going to be focusing more on companies that I'm taking positions in myself. Morninginvest.com. But yeah, if you want to come on over and learn about crypto, gold, and investing on my personal channel, it's just youtube.com/Clayton. youtube.com/Clayton. Put that up here on the screen so I can do it better for you. Let me do it this way. youtube.com/Clayton Morris. Sorry, it's /Clayton Morris, not no, sorry. Get rid of that. Okay. So you guys can see that okay, right? One of the most sorry. Pressing buttons I shouldn't be pressing over here. So it's just youtube.com/Clayton Morris if you want to learn more about that. And I've been, I'm going to be ramping more up there daily just on investing specifically. And here, this channel will be focusing really on the news. But over there, I can focus more on the companies I'm investing in, and even for pennies. I mean, in fact, one person who's in a trading group that I'm a part of, they started with $200. And now they're over 25,000 this year, just from investing smartly and learning how to invest in cryptocurrency and being smart about when to sell. It goes up a little bit and you set a stop loss. So if it's dropping down to a point where after you've made profits, it sells. Okay. Then you watch that. Oh, it's going back up again. Great. Maybe I buy back into it again. Then I set another stop loss. As long as you're paying attention to those things, and you learn how to do it properly, which we'll teach you, you can really do some great things. So I hope I answered your question there, Marilyn. So yeah, come on over to youtube.com/Clayton Morris. And I have a video over there I just did yesterday about Fed Reserve Chief Jerome Powell talking about how crypto is basically better than gold right now, or he thinks it's on par with gold. BK Dan, that's awesome. So see, BK Dan, one of our viewers here, he $5 super chat. He says, "Hey Clayton, I got my stimulus and I put some of it in Blue Lagoon, which I had recommended. It's a gold company." He said, "I've already made $50. Thank you for the suggestion." Boom. Make sure you're setting your stop losses and taking your profits, taking a percentage of profits as you go along, Dan. That's awesome. Let's see. Laura Kent, thank you for your super chat. If we were going to get a recurring $2,000 a month stimulus check, would there be a refund next year, a tax refund next year? Well, tax refunds are based on your income. So it would depend on how they would classify that. They're classifying the $2,000, they're classifying the $1,200 and the $1,400 and the $600 stimulus checks as tax credits. You do not have to pay taxes on those. I can't imagine they would give you a $2,000 recurring stimulus check and then charge taxes on top of it. I can't imagine that. But hey, it's our government. I wouldn't put it past them. Let's see. Michelle Edwards, thank you. Unemployment, $10,200 is an automatic process. If you already filed per the IRS, others still need to wait. So that, thank you, Michelle, is one of our tax experts here. Unemployment, $10,200 is an automatic process. So if you already filed. It'll be automatic. Others will need to wait. So if you haven't filed, others will need to wait. We'll need to find out some guidance from the IRS how you would apply for that. But if you've already filed your taxes and you paid taxes on that unemployment income, it's automatic. You should receive, they'll send you probably the refund shortly. How is it under Ralphie Martinez? How is it that under Trump, we had a longer tax extension, but with Biden, it's only until May 17th? Well, I think, that was at the beginning of the pandemic. I think the world was coming apart, I think, at that point, and there was a lot of fear about what was going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised, though, that the IRS might not even, I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS even extends it beyond June. Into June. Right now, it's May 17th, as you know. Brent D is a new channel member. Thank you for becoming a channel supporter. Shane Dolby. Love that name, Shane. Sound like a musician. Thank you for becoming a channel member. Jan RN Savko, thank you for your super chat. Cindy Girl 41 says student loan forgiveness will allow me to be able to put a down payment on a home. I'm praying that it passes. $50,000 will be life-changing for my family. I hope so too, Cindy. I'm pulling for it. Absolutely. Darnell Hibbler says, thank you for your super chat. Says, we had a class in high school called Independent Living in Poulsbo, Washington. Is that Washington State? Huh. Wow. You actually had a class called Independent Living? That's amazing. Did they actually teach you how to live independently? I'd be curious what was taught. Again, the problem is that I'm bothered by college, to be honest with you, because you go to college to learn accounting from a person who's never actually been an accountant. They're a professor at college, but they've never actually been a CPA. Or you learn, like I learned when I went to the University of Pittsburgh. I was learning about broadcast journalism from somebody who was never an on-air news person. It's like, okay. I'd much rather learn from people who actually know what they're doing. Like I've built multiple companies. I've done thousands of real estate deals. I've written a book. I've been an investor for many, many years. So if my kids are going to be taught by somebody who's never done any of that, how can you teach something like that? I just don't understand. So I really want to understand who's going to be, how are we going to teach kids this? I would love to, something my wife and I have been talking about, I would love to figure out a way to build some sort of a curriculum that could teach parents, that could teach their children about wealth and understand how it works. We would sit at the dinner table and I teach my kids about the difference between a performing asset and a liability. I built a whole course around it called the Financial Freedom Academy. If anyone's interested and you want to check it out, just go to financialfreedomacademy.com. And we have a great community on our Facebook group as well for our course. But it's financialfreedomacademy.com. But we teach our kids when we're sitting around the dinner table, we're like, okay, what is a performing asset? Is buying a new car a performing asset? And the answer, of course, is no, it's not. It's a liability. Why is it a liability? My son or daughter will answer it because it takes money out of your pocket every month. So what is a performing asset? That's just something that puts money in your pocket every month. And we were just never taught this. I had to learn this. I was in my 30s, late 20s. Man B, $10 super chat says, the system is set up to make sure poor people do not build wealth. Yes, it is. This is how the system is structured. Let's see. Sorry, this jumped around. Kristen Miller. I thought you were already a member. It says you're a new channel subscriber. I don't know how that happened. Teresa and Jay Shanley, has there been any news about student loan forgiveness? Just the free public college piece. But I'm hoping that Chuck Schumer pushes the student loan forgiveness $50,000 as a part of this plan, and that's why we'll see it increase. It'll maybe go from $3 trillion up to $4 trillion as far as the $50,000. Marie and 6 kids. I'm not getting the newsletters. What? I'm not getting the newsletters. Marie, can you send me an email? Just send it to clayton@morninginvest.com. We'll find out what your email address is and if there's an issue. You sure it hasn't hit your spam folder or something? When you signed up, you have to make sure you please put in when you sign up for the newsletter. Sorry, let me close the screen down. When you sign up for the newsletter, you go to this screen at morninginvest.com. Make sure you put in your email address properly. Okay, make sure it's typed properly. Then you hit subscribe, and then you'll get a welcome email. And in that welcome email, you'll have to confirm your email address. You have to click a link. That way it avoids spam. That way it avoids, it also makes sure that you type your email properly. Because if you don't get that welcome email, then chances are you may have typed your email improperly. Check your spam folders, your junk folder, and all that stuff. But Marie, you figured out how to do a super chat. You said you're not savvy with computers. Yes, you are. I always teach my kids, when my kids say, I can't do that, Daddy. I always say, yet, at the end of their sentence. Okay, I can't do it yet. I can't do that, Daddy, yet. You'll figure it out, Marie. Michelle, thank you for your super chat. Unemployment updates have been done for Jackson Hewitt, H&R Block, and TurboTax. Oh, that's great. So yesterday they were not done. Now they are. So if you guys were, thank you, Michelle. That's awesome news. If you were waiting on TurboTax and H&R Block software or Jackson Hewitt, their software is now updated to reflect the new unemployment updates. Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. Man B, $5 super chat says, I made $800 on that stock that you recommended, ZKIN, since you recommended it was a gold stock. I'm sorry, it was a blockchain stock. I put in $600 and I made $800. Awesome. Thanks for paying attention. Anne Marie Campbell, $5. Oh, Kristen says I had to renew. Okay, Kristen Miller, thank you so much. Corey Jernigan says I bought 200 shares of that stock, ZKIN, at $6.20 on your recommendation. It's now up to $13.99. I've made $1,300 profit right now. Corey, way to go, man. That's awesome. And I'm not I'm looking at these companies, doing a lot of analysis on these companies in gold, silver, crypto, and I'm telling you about them. And if you jump on them, great. Make sure you set stop losses. And I'm not a financial advisor. If it's something you want to do, great. But like Corey, you just made $1,300. I love that. See, Corey started with he didn't, you can start with a small amount of money on some of these stocks and some of these crypto coins. You don't have to buy Bitcoin. But the beauty of Bitcoin is that you can invest $100 in Bitcoin. You don't need to buy a full Bitcoin, which is at this hour is 55,000. Like this morning, I bought Bitcoin at 54,000. So I'm up a little bit this morning. And I think it's going up to 75. So, Cody Yeager, thank you for your super chat. We moved back to Alaska because housing in the lower 48 states became too expensive and I kept getting laid off. Now I'm employed and have affordable apartment. Way to go, Cody. That's why I moved. And look, that's why so many people are moving out of New Jersey. They're moving out of New York. They're moving out of those areas. They're moving to Florida. They're moving to Texas. You're seeing this mass migration out of California into Idaho. So yeah, makes sense. And then look, you're going to see this in West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia is a beautiful state. I used to live there. I love the people there. Beautiful, lovely people, kindest people you'll ever meet. And if they eliminate the income tax and businesses start moving there, it could be transformative for that state. I'm hoping and praying that the state of West Virginia can have a massive turnaround. A state that has been, population decline for the past 40 years, poverty. So I'm pulling for it. Fab6, $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Can you explain the pros and cons? Can you explain the pros, if there are any, and the cons of a 401k? Sure, I'd love to. So a 401k plan to me is, number one, it has tons of hidden fees that you don't even know about. And once you start digging into, I have to ask my wife, honey, if you're watching the show right now, can you text me the name of the website that shows people the hidden fees? It's called feex.com. I have to look for it. Let me ask her. Honey, what's the name of that website that gives where you can find the hidden fees in 401k plans? Is it feex.com? I'm a huge fan of voice memos in iMessage. By the way, this is what I text my wife. We back and forth about tax policy. Texting her about this West Virginia story about income taxes. So I'll wait to see what she says on that. Okay, so huge hidden fees inside of 401k plans. Okay, number one. Number two, 401k was never meant to stand on its own as a financial product. Okay, it was only ever meant to work side by side with pension plans when it was created in the late 70s, early 80s. Even the founder of the 401k plan says that it has failed. 2 years ago, made a statement about it, that it's not what he intended it to be. And now that pension plans have all but disappeared, the 401k was never meant to stand on its own, ever. It was meant as a nice little stopgap to partner with pension plans. But now what we've seen is companies, number one, the companies profit off of these 401k plans. If they do the company match program, very few companies do a company match where they'll match a certain percentage of money and you have to be vested over a number of years. That's the only time I tell people to invest in a 401k, is if you have a company match. But the thing is that most company matches, or I think all of them, are actually company stock of the company you work for oftentimes. So it's like a boondoggle for these companies. So the company match is one thing. Companies have all but eliminated these company match programs. When I worked at Fox a number of years ago, I had a company match, fine, that was good. It was up to 6%. And you had to be vested over a number of years, fine, that was good. But you get to choose from very few funds that you can pick from. And if you want to touch this money, you can't. You basically have to leave your place of employment in order to get access to it. You can borrow from it. That's a pro. You can borrow and buy real estate with it. You can borrow up to, I think, $50,000. Right now, it used to be up to $100 under the CARES Act, but you can borrow a certain amount and you can even invest that. You pay it back out of your payroll taxes or out of your payroll. You could set the return rate, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years. I think at the heart of it, though, what bothers me the most about a 401k plan is that it's investing in stock market. It's investing in funds. And the idea of it being tax deferred is my biggest complaint. Because I don't know about you, but I want to retire wealthier than I am today. And so the 401k, the idea of tax deferred, you always hear people talking about, well, Clayton, it's tax deferred. It's tax deferred. I'm not paying taxes on it until I retire, they say. Great. So what you're saying then is you plan to retire worse off than you are today in a lower tax bracket, poorer than you are today? Like I said, I don't know about you, but I plan on retiring in a higher tax bracket, meaning I will pay more in taxes at retirement. So by your assessment, tax deferment means you're going to pay more later. End of the day, I'd much rather put that money into a self-directed IRA or into investment vehicles now that I can control, like gold, silver, crypto, and real estate. And with a self-directed IRA, I have full checkbook control of it. I'm not relying on the stock market, ebbs and flows of the stock market. And I have a problem with these companies now that are setting them up automatically, like Home Depot, for instance. Like you start working at a Home Depot and they like set it up and they automatically start taking it out of your paycheck. And basically you opt into it. You just like click a box and you're like, boom, you're set up. And you're like, now my paycheck is like being invested in the stock market. Who's benefiting here? You think you are, but honestly, it really is the stock market. It really is Wall Street. It's these big businesses that are making a ton of money off of it. So I just think it's a boondoggle. And especially when you start to see all the hidden fees inside of the 401k. It's fine if it's like a portion of your retirement strategy. But if it is the only thing you're doing, oh boy, it's not a good retirement strategy. So Fab, I hope I answered that. That's kind of how I feel about it. Man, this thing jumped up again. Oh, Christine, is it Gauthier? Christine Gauthier? I also work at Jackson Hewitt. She says, our system was updated last week to automatically handle the 10,200. Oh, that's great, Christine. Hey, two fellow Jackson Hewitt people in here, Michelle and Christine. Kathleen Rose says, do you get the total amount that's in the federal withheld box on the 1099-G back for people who filed their taxes already? They didn't withhold my state taxes like I thought, and now I owe Mississippi $600. Meh, she says. Love you guys in Grover. Thank you so much. Grover loves you too. Did you get the total amount that's in the federal withheld box in the 1099-G back for people who filed their taxes already? Do you get that total amount back? Christine, Michelle, or John, you want to take that question. Do you get that total amount back from the federal withheld box on the 1099-G for people who already filed their taxes? I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Michelle says, supposedly you do. Okay, supposedly you do. Thank you, Michelle. I'll keep an eye out here if I see in the chat. Okay, Quadish, is it Kadash Chaya? I'm not sure how I pronounce your name. $5 super chat. Would you recommend buying a home with a condo, co-op condo during this time? Well, here's the thing. I am not a fan of homeowners associations. Like for me as a real estate investor, I try to avoid homeowners associations like the plague because you could be grandfathered. I mean, you might be grandfathered in, but what if suddenly they change their bylaws and they're like, hey, we don't want you can't do this in Airbnb anymore, and then you bought it as an investment property. But I can't recommend buying. I'm just not a big fan of buying a home to live in. Again, I talk about performing assets. Like how can you buy something that's a performing asset? I'd much rather have you buy something like a duplex where you can live in one side of it and then rent out the other side. And that becomes a performing asset. It also pays your mortgage by having the other side rented out. But for you just to buy a single family home to live in, and it's taking money out of your pocket every month. I mean, these are some things to think about. Wouldn't you be better off taking that down payment money and investing it in real estate or investing it somewhere so you're actually using that down payment money to build wealth or cash flow? So some things to consider. Brent D wants to know, for you tax experts, I have not filed taxes in several years. How should I handle this with a CPA, or what do you recommend? Well, look, having a proper tax person prepare your tax, it depends on how complex your taxes are. Some people can get away with doing a simple online service. Others need, like I have a tax team that helps me, and we meet every month or so to talk tax strategy through the year. So to me, I think people forget. and this is something that Tom Wheelwright likes to talk about, one of the smartest tax accountants in the world, a good friend of ours. And one of the things he talks about is filing the taxes is one thing. It's tax preparation that's the most important, that should be taking place all year, especially if you're in business. Like Kristen Swenson, who's watching, starting a business. Like, these are things you need to be focusing on all year round, because you don't want to come like December and find out, oh my God, I owe this much in taxes. Like, that shouldn't be a surprise. These things should be so we're having meetings with our tax team like every month or so about strategy, about different things that we need to do. And so that way, come tax time, the filing of the taxes should be the easiest part, because all the hard work is already done. So I think, having a smart tax person team with you, depends on how complex your taxes are. Again, if you can just do an easy file, that's something else. But Adam L., what about investing in the gold industry? Yeah, I mean, hey, that's what if you watch my video from the other day about gold, did you watch my video on gold surging? Watch that video, because what I talked about in that video was investing in a gold infrastructure company. Tony Joslin says, credit reports are the new Jim Crow. Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Really is. I mean, the fact that we live in like a credit-based society, it's disgusting. Andrew Gowdy Hart says, if I filed and received taxes this year, will my stimulus be based on my 2019 or 2020 filing? If I filed and received taxes this year, will my stimulus it'll be based on your 2020 filing. I had a child last year and I wasn't sure. Yes. So whatever is the most recent tax return that is on file with the IRS is what your stimulus will be based on. Denise M. upgraded her membership to gold. Thank you, Denise. Ocelot GG. I love ocelot, a picture of an ocelot. Thank you for your... Is YouTube screening the super chat content? It would not let me send a statement critical of the VA. Yeah, we have certain words blocked, like certain swear words and things like that, and caps. Like certain things are blocked automatically. We also, by the way, I just want a public service announcement. If you ever see a comment that looks like it's from me, says Morning Invest, and it has my logo and it has Morning Invest in the name. If you ever see that where it says, here, here's my advice, text me on WhatsApp, that is not me. That is spam. That is a bot. And they create these accounts and they do that to financial channels all the time. Somebody sent me, I think Rich, you sent me an email the other day. Rich, I think Hoyt is here. Is it Rich? You sent me an email saying somebody in your chat is posting your WhatsApp message. And is that you? I'm like, no, it's not me. It's spam. So if you ever see that, please click on it and you can report it as spam. If someone leaves a comment like that. But we try to go in and delete them. And so we have to set certain parameter words sometimes, and they'll type WhatsApp. They'll type like what space ATSA space AAPP with little characters. And we block those, and then we block them. And it's like endless. So just ignore those, please. Don't ever call a WhatsApp. It's not me. I promise you. Okay. I think I got all the super chats. I think I did. So thank you guys so much for an awesome show. I really appreciate it. Hope I brought you some value today. That's my goal. You brought me a lot of value just being a part of our great community here. I really appreciate all the feedback. I love seeing all of you guys on a daily basis. It warms my heart, and it warms his heart too. I know that's true. So thank you guys so much. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for subscribing. Turn on that bell notification. And thanks to all of our new channel members as well. David Blanton said one more super chat in. I filed my taxes after TurboTax recommended I wait for the unemployment. And when I first started doing them, I owed state, but after it changed, I get $100. Awesome, David. That's good. Much better that way, right? Well, much love to all of you guys. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you joining us, and we will see you back here bright and early at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for another episode of Morning Invest. Until then, everyone, be safe, be kind to each other, and I love seeing you.